Okay, welcome to Colliers Wood Shop. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through a bench build to try to show you how we do it and why we think ours is a better design. Okay, we start off with a few pieces here. This is the top. These will be the side rails, 2 side rails. These are the support, the leg supports, 2 leg supports. 2 legs, obviously. And then these go on the legs to create the thickness that we need and to give our legs support. So what we have is we have grain that runs this way. Then when we put this on, it adds strength because the grain runs this way. And then it gives us the thickness that we need for a 2-inch screw to go in here, through this piece here, into here, and it gives us a good 2-inch screw to hold the leg in place. Okay, welcome to our workbench. We use a Kreg worktop. It's basically 2 Kreg project tables put together, little holes in it to keep our jigs. So what we do is we have stops here, here, and here. I think I set them back here, to be honest with you. And then we have the side stuff here, somewhere here. I'll adjust these. So what I do is I start with the top. This particular bench here has a handle hole in it. So that's what I call my handle hole. I can do it solid where there's no handle hole as well. Let's see if I can get this right. We put our stops there. Stops here. And a back stop there, and I'll put one down here. Then I have some clamps to kind of try to hold this in place. The reason we try to hold it in place is when we put our Kreg jig into our side rails, we want to keep it as flush as we can. These pieces here as flush as we can. Here's one of our side rails. I've already pre-drilled all these, and I did that in a time lapse so you can see how I pre-drilled Kreg jig. We'll set her in place there. Find my screws here. Yep, there they are. Okay, we've got our screws out. I'm a firm believer in glue and using the Kreg jig, the Kreg screws. I feel that you could probably just glue it, or you could probably just Kreg screw it. But I feel you need double security on this. Hold it in place real well. I set that in place there. Give it a little wiggle. And what I can do, and what I have done in the past, is I like to smear the glue out. This gives me an idea where the piece is going to be before I see how much glue I got. So I kind of put the glue on there, see where we're at with everything. Then I've got some pre-made stops, 3/4 inch thick, so I can make sure I'm in the right spot. Come here, make sure we're in the right spot. Take a look at this. I take my glue, make sure I have enough glue. I don't want to waste it, I don't want it squirting out too much, but I like to have a nice coat of glue. too much, you're just wiping it off, and not enough, it doesn't do the job. Just wipe it on, make sure we get to the edges. Center. Double check that side. This side centered up. Make sure we're pretty good there. We don't want to be too long. We don't want to be too short. We can make adjustments at this point. 3 screws. I guess I should have been a little more prepared before I started the video. Just how things go. Kreg screws use a square bit. Well, I think a square bit is a little bit square head. Gives it a little more of a positive drive instead of a Phillips head. I do use Phillips head where the customer is going to have to and you just want to snug it down. I do it by feel, but you should probably set it on a 7, about halfway on your drill. You don't want to over tighten these because all they do is keep walking out towards the edge. So you just want to bring them down, keep them as flush as you can. This gives us a real nice side. Again, let me go get a wet rag. I'll be right back. Always wipe off your excess glue. If you're staining, don't know exactly why. We wipe it off with a damp rag, wet rag. What I like to do is when I use my drill, I don't like to depend on the drill. I like to have a little feel. So I have a square drive screwdriver that I use, and then I just usually put the last little quarter to turn on it, and then I can feel the tightness of it. Again, you can probably drive it down in there with a screwdriver and call it a day, or with your gun and call it a day, but I just like to feel it, and I can look at it, re-squeeze the glue a little bit. Okay. Important here not to let, well, what I try to do is not let the glue build up on my stops, because then it just slowly start pushing it in there. Yeah, like that. So we come back in, we reclamp her. Clamper here. We're going to do a dry fit real quick, just to make sure we don't have to make any adjustments to the length of this sideboard. Feels good. Obviously, after I've done a few of these benches, I know the measurements on the top and the side supports, so we're pretty close on those. But if you were just doing it for the first time and you had to make some adjustments, that would be the point, that you can make some adjustments on either the top board or the sideboard here. If the sideboard was too long, you could cut it down a little bit, or if your top was way too long, and you can cut that back a little teeny bit. You're going to have to be fairly close with that cut, but if you needed to adjust the saw blade out of it, you know, a little teeny bit, 1/8 inch or so, you could make that adjustment now before you get any further. in 3 screws. What I do is I always start in the center. Don't know why, but I do. Just get her to snug there. Again, just bring her down snug. You heard that snap a little bit. It's set on a 7. I say you could probably, there at a 7. I just like to feel it with the manual screwdriver. Gives me a feel that, like right now I can see a gap in here, so I know I've got an issue here that's going to take a couple turns. Now I can feel it, make sure I'm not stripping it out, get it nice and snug there. And again, the screw and the glue are going to give us a double adhesive, a double lock, so to speak. You know, the glue's going to hold it in place, and then the screw's also holding it in place. So we got double, and I think that's what gives you some stability and sturdiness of our benches. Again, we could probably just nail them from the top. We could probably just screw them and leave them. Or we could just glue them and leave them, but we try to do a little both things to give us a double the strength there, if you will. Okay, so now we basically have our top done. And we're gonna come in here. Done with these little top guys here. For now, everything out of the way. I was setting up to do a couple benches at once. It wouldn't seem like a lot of work to do that. Just get them out of the way so you can see what we're doing. Okay, side supports. Side supports go here. I face them inward towards the leg, but they could probably be faced all the way in. I face them this way just so it's less hardware to look at. I mean, I know I've got the 3 holes on each side, but it just kind of hides these, keeps them inside. And I also have a screw that comes through there. We'll have a screw that we drill later on that comes through there and there, so it just kind of keeps it a little cleaner on the inside, so to speak. So I'm just checking this right here to make sure I'm flush. I've got a pretty good mark on there. I push that back in, so dry fit in the leg. Now I'm going to mark where this is going to finish out. I'm good there. Now what I do is put a little bit of glue on the sides. Glue on the sides gets pushed off a fair amount. So we just kind of play that by ear how much gets pushed off. If we have to reload some glue, we do. And we do that right there. And I like to, as I said, it gets pushed off the side, so I like to put a little teeny bit of glue in the corners. Just trying to hold this together as one piece, and my marks kind of help me slide it down in. Slide it down in nice and square. It goes in there easy. We'll take our piece here. Also got another little little thing that I use as a face jig, so I can square that up, hold it without the leg on there. Just a 3/4 inch piece. Okay. Now I've got that. I like to clamp it with my 12-inch clamps. These are heavier duty clamps. Clamp it in place. And again, I pull down first. Pull it to the bottom first. Four Kreg screws in here. Pull to the bottom. Oh. And then I pull to the sides. Just the way I do it keeps me consistent on how I pull it down. I can see if I've got any types of gaps or issues and work on anything that is a gap or an issue before past that point. Just the way I do it. I'm sure there's 20 different ways to do it. Okay, again, take my square screwdriver. Just get that last little turn on there. Don't go crazy with it, but I just like to know, I like to feel that it's tight. There we go. Get this off. Okay. So now we've got the one side done. Just to kind of keep the, I look at it, look at my grain. I try to have my grain, if it's arching out like this, I try to face this in. And then I'll take and mark this right here on my leg. Again, I got a little bit of a leeway. It's not a precise fit, but it can't be too far off, because what you're trying to do is keep this leg square on the sides or flush with the sides. So you want to, and if it was off a little bit when you drill your holes for your legs, you're going to be able to center it again. So I got two little marks on each side. I don't know if you can see these right there and there. So then that will help us glue, and we'll go ahead and glue right now. I got a lot of marks on this wood, so I'm gonna sand your marks off, but what I like to do is just get a nice bite, a nice scuff point for the glue to bite into. For some reason, I feel like the wood feels like it's glazed a little bit, has a glassy feel to it. And again, I'll look at my grain, and if the grain's arched like that, I put the arch down. And we'll take and put glue. This piece here, I glue both pieces. Push it out. I find that when you use a brush, it kind of gets that glue spread out a little bit better and doesn't leave any pockets or big blisters of glue that either don't dry as quick or really aren't in my mind not as useful of glue joint if it's a huge pile of glue. I feel like if it's spread out and able to get into the wood equally, you have a better glue joint. That's just what I've found. No research, no data to back that up, just my opinion. Okay, so we put this on here like that. I'll give her a little wiggle to see how she feels. And Make sure I don't have anything crazy going on. Then I'll put a little clamp. Nothing crazy. I'm just clamping it in place right now. We'll clamp her in place, let her sit there for a little bit, and then we'll move over here to the other side. And once we start marking this and getting our legs set up, I don't like to change sides. I don't know that it would really matter a whole lot, but I mark A and B on my legs, and I try to keep the sides the same. They're probably pretty close, but as we drill holes and different things like that, if we can keep our legs where we did it, then it's going to have a better tendency to line up when the customer gets it. Okay, getting a little ahead of ourselves here. We got to get this in. We're going to take this here, flush it up. You can see we're flush there. We come up to the top. We make sure that we're flush with our little template that guy we got there. We'll mark it. Mark the sides on the insides. I don't know if you can see that, but I got a little mark here. It just helps me with the glue. It really helps me when I got to slide this down in, that I'm not all crooked or anything like that. And I know approximately where that goes. So my glue kind of stays in one place and I don't have glue all over the place. Again, the glue's not a big deal until you go and stain. I'll put a little bit. And the glue and stain don't get along too well together, so you'll have some little marks where the stain won't stick. If it's on the bottom, it's usually not a huge ordeal. But inevitably, it doesn't always end up where you want it. You finish your piece and you're like, oh, got a glue. I'm trying to slide this down in evenly. Get it down in there evenly. Okay, we're going to double check this again. And just push that in so it's nice, and we want that to stay flush there. That's going to keep our leg flush there and give us a nice seating place for the leg. My clamp, I'm going to come in here. I like to come a little bit down, clamp that in, not all the way at the top, not all the way at the bottom. Now just pull it there. And again, as I said before, I start at the bottom, pull it down, and then I pull my sides in. You could probably go the other way and do the sides and then pull it down in the center. Just this is the way that I've become accustomed to it. And the way I like to do it. Come in from this side here. Grab that. Our square-headed screwdriver, so to speak. We'll pull these guys down. This little quarter turn on it. Make sure it's got a good feel. If it was stripped out, you could abort and, you know, find another piece, take that piece out, try to fix what you're doing, just look at it. But that kind of, when you do it by hand, it gives you a feel for what's going on in that joint. And 99% of the time it's good. Very rarely, occasionally, you'll get something that pulls and you just have to make a decision then to jump out of the project. And okay. I don't know if you can see the grain, how the grain is arched there. So my goal is to put it like this. And as long as everything looks good, feels good, that's the way I'm going to go with it. Sometimes it might not work that way, but And the reason that I do that is that when it's arched like this, and we have a little teeny dip in here, when I put the screws in, it kind of flattens out the wood and holds the wood together. So I'm kind of trying to keep that wood as square as I can. Obviously, if you've worked with wood for a long time, you know that keeping wood square, flat, especially when you're dealing with something like pine, which we use southern yellow pine on our benches. It's sometimes impossible. You're just trying to get the best that you can get it. It is a trade-off. Now this grain here, I guess you'd call that quarter grain maybe. I don't have any arch in it, so I'm not kind of worried about it too much. I have writing on this side, and you can see I forgot to scuff on this one. Not the end of the world. Like to do it, but I got a little ahead of myself. Got excited here in the video, trying to show you guys. So didn't scuff there. Don't know that it's a necessity, but something that I like to try to do. I can't say that I've had a joint fail because I didn't scuff, but just something that I try to do. I guess try would be the relative word. Okay, we need a clamp here. Put a clamp right there. Clamp her down. And because we do a lot of benches, we know what our measurements are, but what you don't want to do is drill this hole here and have it hit right on those there. So I've got a little jig that gives me, marks where I want to put those. So I come in here with the drill. I pre-drill all my holes. You could probably just, screw it right down. And maybe it wouldn't have a problem, maybe it would, maybe it would split, maybe it wouldn't, but I like to pre-drill. On this kind of stuff, and even fight this to try to get it as close to flush at the top as I can. Try to get inside my marks there. So we got our jig here to make sure these screws don't line up. Okay, so we'll start there. All I do is mark it with this guy here, and then I go back and drill through it, or drill down in it. Okay, that's that jig there. Put that away. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drill through that, obviously. I use 1 1/4" screws. So this is 1.5 inches thick, so we go 1 1/4 inches. And then obviously I check, that my drill bit, this drill that the bit that I use will not go through. And even if I were to bottom it out, try to evacuate as much of the shavings as we can, because the shavings, what we got, the shavings, that's basically what's cracking it. There's no place for the extra material that the screw's taking up to go, so then that will crack or split. That's the purpose of pre-drilling, in my opinion. Got a nice place for the screw to go. Not necessary, but just try try to keep the mess cleaned up, the sawdust, a little bit, because when you go to flip it over and you're trying to, I just try to keep it as clean as I can. Not a necessity. Just blunt it off. Got this set at 11, and I could hear, you know, you don't want to drive this down in, because you only have a 1/4 inch on the other side until you're coming through. So this drill set at 11, and I just pull it tight. I mean, it doesn't have to be hammered in. You've got glue on there. I don't want it sticking up. You know, I want it pulled down a little bit. And I wouldn't want it proud like that where it's up, but I want, you know, I want it flush to just a little teeny bit in. We got a small amount of room before we run through the other side. But occasionally you'll pick up a 1x that's not quite 3/4 thick. And some of the white wood that you'll buy is not 3/4 thick, it is 5/8, or, you know, they give you the least amount of thickness they can. So you just want to be careful that you don't go through the other side. Okay, so now we've got our legs, say A and B, for example. Now here's a critical thing, I wouldn't say critical, but something that we do that I feel is, you know, makes it a little bit nicer. We go on the next size up drill bit. I wish I could tell you without my 5/32. That makes sense. 5/32, and the reason that, so again, a jig, you don't need a jig to do this, but we've got it. So we've got a jig, so all our legs are going to be pretty close. You know, the holes are going to be same vicinity. The reason that we do that is that when this screw goes through, it's not trying to bite. It's going to go through and then bite on this, which is going to, well, it's actually coming this way. It's going to go through this piece of wood and not bite on this wood. It's actually a little bit too big for the screw. So then it pulls the leg in tight instead of, you know, getting bound up in that other spot. Now I've got to screw down in my little groove here. Always something. I'll deal with that. Oh, got 2 of them now. Guess we'll deal with that now. Okay. Come on, guys. Let's go this way. You think that they would know that I'm trying to do a video, not to act up? They don't have any sense. Okay. Both screws out now. I'll put them in there. You guys stay in there. Don't be acted up. Okay, so we're going to come over to the other side. Same basic thing. And again, you can drill them anywhere. You just want to make sure wherever you have these, that your mounting holes don't match up directly to that. Again, you don't need a jig. You could probably measure it out, mark it. And then I keep this drill bit with this jig, so I'm not going all over the place looking for it, trying to remember what size it was, etc. Okay, where am I at now? I am looking for my little countersink bit, which is right here. Okay. This is something that I started doing on my benches, is I like to countersink this side of it, just so when that screw goes in there, it looks good. And it also cleans up that hole, so there's no debris or anything in there. I just give it a little bit, clean it up. And that'll give a nice mating surface to the screw that holds the leg on. And we want that screw, what we're trying to do is get that screw to pull the leg in. We don't want that screw to bind up on this mounting bracket. because it's really not going to do us any good. It's not going to give us any more strength. The strength for this leg is created by this leg not wanting to go this way or pull out this way. The screws are holding it from pulling out this way. But what I've found is that if you don't make that a little bit larger, when the customer goes to put it in, if this isn't flush, they end up having a little teeny gap in here, and that little teeny gap causes a rock, and the customer won't be able to get it as tight. So I do that to try to make it so the customer, when they tighten it up, it's tight. And I see a little bit of a glue drop here, which I will wipe off with my damp rag. Double check anywhere for any more glue. Okay, so we're here. We put this leg on, and we put our drill bit back in the drill. I'm gonna bite it up a little bit more. Okay, so we got it back in here. Now the key factor here is that we keep this flush. We don't want this pushed over to one side where it's not flush right there. So we're gonna keep it flush, and that's how we're gonna put our marker. Don't have to go deep or anything at this point. Now we got our marks right here, and again, this drill will not go through. And you'll find if you're doing this for yourself, the drill or the drill bit will lock up unless you get some of those shavings out of it. So you don't want to just try to go down into drill a hole just one shot. You want to get that those particles out of there so it has so it doesn't lock up. It acts like a brake on the drill bit. Okay, so we come over here, and again, probably could have used the vacuum there, but that's what I mean. If we get a bunch of shavings, we got to put our leg in. It can be up or down or sideways or crooked. So we try to keep that area clean. So when we made it up, we've got a good place to mark. Mark here, flush. Nice little mark there. We come here. And okay, so we got that ready. And another thing that we do at this point is we mark our legs. We mark them A, B. Most part, I think I've kept them separate. I don't know that it really, they're close. I think they're interchangeable, and they probably could be. But I've gotten to this habit, and you could call it paranoia, that I try to keep the legs on the same side, but I use a jig to drill the holes. I do everything, so I just make a little sticker. If you buy a bench from me, you'll get a little sticker that says AB, and that's what it means. And just we'll go with A first. You could use 1, 2, 3. You could use colors. You could do anything you wanted if you were building these. Resell. Okay, so I put it this way, and then on here, we just put it right there. The reason that I put it there is because when the customer is putting this together, they will be looking at it like this versus putting it on here. The customer is looking around and they can see AA. Boom, they know that goes there. That goes like that. And then we do the B. This bench here is going to get a brown stain and clear coat. So those stickers go on before the brown stain and the clear coat. I just find that sometimes stickers of this magnitude don't stick as well. on top of the oil, or the, you know, the oil stain. And I think the little teeny bit of finish that's not covering that area is not the end of the world. Okay, so we come in here and this is where we're putting our, and again, we don't want to just ram these in here. This is set at 11. As if we were a customer putting this together, we want to be aware that what's going on. We want to make sure it's flush and it's not held out here like this, and we get to it and we're trying to, you don't want to be pulling the leg in with the screw. You want the leg to already be flush. And just me, what I do is I get that, and then I come over here, and I pull that guy down, and I pull that guy down. I always like to snug and then pull tight. So you don't ever want to go in tight, and then go to the other side and try to do the same thing, because if you've got any kind of little bind or anything like that, snug there. Okay, finish that one there. Okay, so now we have our bench complete. That's our handle hole bench. Let me get you guys here real quick and I'll give you a quick tour of it. But that's how we build them. Here at Colliers Wood Shop. No secrets. And of course, you're never dealing with wood. You're going to have some imperfections that you're going to work on when you sand, and that's just part of it. That's what gives it the character. And you sand those out and just deal with them. And they could be in different spots on different benches. Each bench is kind of its own unique character, so to speak. I can't really see what I'm showing you guys, but I hope you got the gist of it. Let me see if I can. No, I can't. All right. See if I can put it down on the table here. Talk to you for one last minute. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching the video. I just wanted to go over and show you how I put my benches together. I hope it helped you in some shape, way, or form. If you're building a bench yourself, give you ideas. If you're buying a bench from me, it kind of gives you an idea of how we do things and why we do things. And we're trying to make our benches strong, and we're trying to make our benches last out there in the field and give people years of use out of them. And maybe a family heirloom for some people. So thank you very much for watching our videos. Again, please like and subscribe. It really helps us a lot. Thank you very much and have a great day.